Hi, my name is Dan, and in this video, which is one in a series of videos about blueprint scripting in Unreal, I'm going to show you the use of arrays and maps. I'm going to mention lists as well, or sets as they're called in Unreal. So the setup I've got here is a standard third-person template setup. I've got a little blueprint, as is quite normal for me, with a pressure plate. Let's just open that up and have a look. So it's got a little plate which is there for visual, and a collision box which, when the player stands on it, it will detect that. Yes, we probably want to be in the script, don't we? So here we go. Right, so we've used in the past some single variables. If you've been following along with this series, you might be just dipping in here, so that's fine if you are. You may well, and I hope you have, done other programming before this and come across the concept of an array. So an array is a collection of similarly typed variables that are bound together as one unit. It's like having a list of things, like a shopping list or something like that, where you've got one thing after another. And we're going to show the use of arrays first in here. So I'm going to create a variable that's going to be an array of text elements, and I'm going to call it message. I'm going to have a similar effect to the video that I did before this, which was about functions. You don't need to know what was going on there, but if this looks familiar, then that's the reason why. So I'm going to change the type of this from a Boolean to a text. In fact, to a string, not a text. And then here, just next to the variable type, there's a little blob. And if you click on that blob, you get some options here. So the top one is a single variable, which is what we've been using so far. And then we get one that looks like 9 squares in a square, which is an array. Then there's 2 curly brackets, which is a set, which is the name that Unreal uses for unordered lists. And then the final one is a map or dictionary, and we'll see that in a couple of minutes' time. But we'll focus on the array right now. We've created that variable. We're going to compile, and we're going to create a couple of instances of this blueprint class and show some values for this. So we've got one already out there in World. Let's put a second one out there. And you can see that I've made this I hoped I had made that variable visible. I haven't. I need to do that and recompile. So there it is, the message. We've got 0 array elements. So as I said before, it's like having a list of things, and in this case, they're going to be strings, and I can add elements here for the different instances. I could have set this up for a global thing that's always there for each instance. But in this case, I want to make it different depending on the instance of the class. So this one's going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'm going to put a message in. I'm going to put the words in backwards, because that way when we print them out one at a time, it will appear in what looks like the correct order, reading from top to bottom. So similar to before, I'm going to have one of these is going to complain when you stand on it. So get off the you heavy lump! Exclamation mark. So as you'll see, each element here will start counting at 0, because for some reason computing people will start at 0. There are historically good reasons for this in programming languages, so just live with it. And we can refer to each one separately in this array by using this number, which is called the index. And this is, if you had a list of things, if you'd listed them, you might go like 1 bread, 2 milk, 3 sausages. And somebody who was inquiring about your list might say, what's item 3 on your list? And you say, sausages. So that's fine. We could do the same in using an array here. And we just happen to be using strings as our type. These could be floating point numbers, they could be, in fact, any variable type that we wanted could be there on the elements. So we've got a number, which is always an integer, which refers to an entry in the list of elements. And we're going to set up the second one. So this one is going to be less fussy, and instead of complaining about the weight, it's just going to say bring no accident on exclamation mark. This is a tough one. It doesn't care how heavy you are. Okay. So there's some data. Let's get back into the script here. I'm going to create a function which is going to display the message. And to start off with, actually, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick out the second word of each message and display that, just to show you how we can access the individual elements of an array. So that's our array here. And if we want to grab one element of it, we can do get. And the one that we want is get a copy. And we can tell it which number, so remember we start counting at 0, so the first word was 0, and they're in reverse order, but let's not worry about that at the moment. So we're going to get the second element each time, and then we're just going to print string. Yeah. And the other thing that we need to do is to have that function happen. We haven't given it a name, never mind. And that's going to happen every time we step on the plate. Right, let's go and have a look at that running. So that one gives us it. That says heavy. So that's it from bring it on, and that's heavy from get off me, you heavy lump. Right. So we want to display the whole message actually instead of just one element. So let's get back into our function, and well, let's take away that get. We can also set elements. So set array elements is a node that allows you to say which index. So that's the numbering in the list and what the item is going to be. And if you've got an array of a certain number and you want to stretch it by adding more, you need to tick the size to fit box. Yeah, otherwise, it won't adapt your array as you add more and more elements. So we don't want that. What we want to do is we want to run through each element in turn, and there's a node for that. And this is called the for each loop. And this loop is going to run through each element of this array in turn. It'll give us a loop body so we can take execution off there, and it will take off here the elements one at a time. So if we do print string, we'll just pull off this. So each time through this loop, it gives us a different array element. We've already plugged that in so that it should happen when we step on it. Get off me, you heavy lump. Bring it on. That's exactly what we were hoping for. Right, so that's a quick look at arrays. The other thing I'm going to show you is the map, otherwise known sometimes as a dictionary. So the array, we're bound together, and if we look at the data, go back to the data and one of these here, we've bound together a index, which is a number, and a string. What a map or a dictionary does is allows you to use different types of indexing and to actually use any type that you want here. So what we're going to do is quite common, is we're actually going to use strings as the index, and we're going to have a set of stats. In fact, we're only going to put a couple in because there's no point in replicating too much data in here. So we're going to add a variable to the class, and we're going to call it stats. And up here, where we've got the thing that indicates we're using an array, we're going to click on that and choose instead dictionary. And we're going to use strings as our indexes. Actually, now it uses the different word because an index kind of implies that you've got numbers. So the term that we use is a key. So this is the key, and this is going to have a value. And we're going to have floating point values. So I'm going to use floats for that. And we're just going to build in a couple of elements here, some default cannot add a new key whilst a new key with the default only exists. So you have to add them one by one. And we're going to pretend it's kind of stats for a person. So we're going to have the weight. We're going to say the weight is 85. That might be in kilos. And we've got heights. And we're going to make sure we spell that with only one capital. And we're going to do a height of 180 there in Unreal units. So that's some values. So again, just to emphasize the fact that instead of an index, we've got a key, and this happens to be a string, and each one of those refers to one of the refers to a floating point number. We could have as many of these as we like, and we can keep adding bits of data here if we want to, but we only need two to kind of demonstrate the way this works. We're going to create a second function. Functions. I'm going to give this one a name. I'm going to call it show stat. And actually what we wanted to do is for each instance of this to show a different stat. So we're going to have yet another variable, and this is just going to be called which stat. That has automatically become a map. Map is a really confusing word. Dictionary is a better word because Unreal also uses the word map to mean a level at times. So I'm going to try and talk about dictionaries more often. But we just want this to be a single variable. This is going to say which particular stat we're going to access when we step off the plate. That needs to be made public, so we can set that differently. And we'll just flick out of there and type that now. So we've got the array elements and which stat, and we're going to type in that string. So we're going to type height in that one, and the other one is going to be weight. Right, back into the scripts, and this variable is not variable function show stat is going to take whichever stat we've got and show it. So let's grab a reference to the dictionary first, and then we'll do find. So it's different for a dictionary than it is for an array, which is get. This one is find, and it's because you can't guarantee that there will be one in there for the particular key that you're going to provide. And in fact, if we're going to be robust, it's got a Boolean output here which tells us whether it's been successful or not, whether it's actually found it. We're going to assume that we've done it right, which isn't safe. In a proper application, you'd put a branch in here to make sure, but I can't be bothered today. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the name of that stat and we're going to string it up and say such and such equals whatever the value is. So I'm going to construct a string out of 3 elements here. So I'm going to drag off that, and I'm going to type in append. So the function to add strings onto the end of other strings is called append. And so the A is whichever stat we're using. B is we're going to do space equals space. So it's going to be give us spaces in between here, and it shows that. Then we're going to add pin, and we're going to take out this. So this is a floating point number. As I plug that into there, it does an automatic conversion, which is great. And then this constructed string, we're going to do print string. And make that the thing that actually happens. Right. Now, we need to go back into our event graph and make sure that we do show stat when we step off the plate. And that should be everything that we need. So stepping on is giving us the message. Stepping off, height equals 180. Stepping on, bring it on. Stepping off, weight equals 85. So hopefully you can see doing that a little bit of a start to the use of arrays and dictionaries, otherwise known as maps in Unreal. I haven't used a list, otherwise known as a set in Unreal. I tend not to use those, but they're quite similar to arrays in some ways, in that they're a list of elements, but they don't have an order specified. So that makes them less easy to use in some ways. Anyway, that's it from me for now.